Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Sports Frenzy 2.0. We are Zooming it this week. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
Now, this is going to be weird because for our regular edition, we are going to Zoom it, but for the weekend edition, we're actually going to be back as you normally know and love us. Back together again as we are going to get together a day later than normal for taping because of the NFL draft. So sports is actually going to help the weekend edition. So
exactly. This is a good thing.
Yep. But we figured tonight we're both tired, we're both worn out. Limit the beer intake. Although I'm not limiting the hostility once we get to dumbass or not.
Let it out like the doctor said.
Speaking of which, we're going to start off with Major League Baseball here. Now we're 2.5 weeks into the season, almost 3 weeks in, given all the rain delays and cancellations and postponements. And this had to be one of the worst weeks in recent memory for both Chicago baseball teams.
Oh my God, it was absolutely abysmal. Do you want to begin?
Sure. I'm going to bring up the negatives and the negatives and the negatives and then one positive. Negatives for the Cubs. Since the last time we spoke, they have won one game. They are now 7-10, pending tonight's game as we tape here on the 27th of April. This will hit tomorrow morning, the 28th. They're playing Atlanta tonight, down in Georgia. They've been awful. They've just been awful. Lack of offense is the problem. Here's the conundrum for the Cubs. I looked at the stats, the MLB stats going into today's games, and I figured the Cubs would be piss poor everywhere, all across the board. And they're not great pitching. And I blame most of that on Marcus Stroman. But
yeah, he's pretty brutal.
He was okay last night. But the thing that blew my mind is that as of this morning, the Cubs were number one in the league in hitting, in batting average. They were hitting 266. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? Then I remembered the one game that they won this week. They can't score runs. They can't do anything right. And then they have the one game this week where they put up over 20 runs, over 20 hits, skew the numbers completely in their favor, make themselves look good because they had one game where they went ape shit crazy.
Yeah, the aberration.
Yeah. Again, don't let numbers fool you, kids. This is why we preach against analytics. The numbers will lie. And in the case of the Cubs, the numbers lie. Cubs sucks. Like I said,
statistics say you can make the numbers mean anything you want them to.
Yep. So again, 7-10. They are in fourth place as we tape. 3.5 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers. And I think the one other thing I want to bring up that hurts, we'll talk more about the Yankees here in a minute, but the fact that Anthony Rizzo might now be the leader in the race for AL MVP.
It's early.
I know. But, man, 3 home runs last night. Jesus, God, or the night before. No, it was last night.
His career.
Yeah. Jeez. Now, he was made for Yankee Stadium, that new configuration in the new ballpark, the short porch in right. Oh, God, I mean, he's just taking advantage of that.
As he should. If he didn't, there would be serious questions about him.
And this is the one time I will say this, as much as you and I, for the years and years and decades we've known each other, we hate the evil empire. We can't stand the evil empire. I'm rooting for him. Correct. I hope Rizzo wins the MVP. Now, I don't necessarily want him to win a World Series because that involves the Yankees. But all individual accolades for him, I hope he gets everything he deserves.
There you go. Especially the way he was treated in Chicago at the end by ownership.
All of them, all those guys from the 2016 team. Contreras and Hendricks are still hanging on, but yeah, Rizzo, Bryant, not so much.
The ones
but
that everybody kept saying, "Oh, we're going to get rid of. We don't need them," and they've been the most consistent performers for him.
Yep, and we'll talk about Kyle Schwarber in a little bit. Have some fun with him.
Yes, we will. All right. Moving on to the South Side. God, what an abysmal week. 8-game skid for the Sox, getting swept out of Cleveland and swept out of Minneapolis. Absolutely horrible. Keuchel, not good. The bullpen gave up. Hendricks has been shaky. The offense can't hit. Defense has been abysmal. During that 8-game skid, they committed multiple errors in every game, and Tim Anderson has been the worst. It's like he's forgotten how to play the position of shortstop defensively. Fielding errors, throwing errors, just not good.
Well, he needs to stop flipping off the fans like he's a Yankee and start focusing on the game.
Yeah, well, it's Cleveland. They deserve it. It's only Cleveland. But, yeah, so Eloy Jimenez went down with a torn hamstring tendon behind a knee. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. I guess that's a similar injury that Lance, our pitcher,
Lance Lynn
is dealing with. He's recovering from a similar surgery. Lewis Robert, I said, had gone down with a strained groin. Pollock is finally back. I really have to question our training staff right now and the way they're getting these guys ready. I know it's early, cold weather, blah, blah, blah. We did not have these kind of issues back when Dr. Payne Schneider was our head trainer. So I really have to wonder what the hell's going on in that regard. But like I said, 8-game skid. It finally ended mercifully today at home after losing to Kansas City yesterday, getting shut out yet again. The Sox put up 7 runs today and win 7-3. We got a 3-run homer out of Andrew Vaughn and a solo shot out of Jake Berger, our third baseman, filling in for Moncada. So sitting now at 7-10.
The good thing for you guys, though, is that even with an 8-game skid, yes, Minnesota's in first place, but they're only 2 games up after the skid. That's not bad. I mean,
no, we're still in it. So at least it's not like the NL East where the Mets are really starting to run away with it.
Yeah, you're going to have a very East-heavy, both AL and NL playoff scenario is what I'm looking at here, because the Mets are going to lock themselves in. I think Toronto, the Yankees, possibly Tampa Bay all get in on the AL side. I think the dumpster fire that are both central divisions, both AL and NL, I still think you guys are easily the front runners to win that in the AL.
Yeah, but we've got to get everybody healthy and everybody has to start performing.
And then the West for the National League, I think you're going to get 3 teams in there. I think you're going to get Dodgers, San Francisco, and the Padres.
Yeah, kind of like you were looking at last year.
Yep.
And then I've knocked him around, Mike Trout, for being the oft-injured, will he step up and perform again? And it's early in the season, but he seems to be returning to form and is really showcasing his talent. We'll see if it can continue. But as often as I must align him, I have to give kudos to him at this point.
Yeah, that was the one thing I saw with Rizzo's unbelievable stat line last night. Right after him was Trout. And if it wasn't for Rizzo putting up the monstrous numbers he did last night, yeah, Trout would again be up at the front of the line for AL MVP.
Yeah.
Now, is this the year? Is this the year where the Angels finally win that division and break through?
It all depends. Can Houston pull their season together? Because they're scuffling along and they've got some injuries they're dealing with. Seattle's playing really well right now.
Yep. So it's all going to be about basically who can beat up on Oakland and Texas when they get them. Do they get them at the right times? Yeah. So it's early, though, as we talked about, and we are going to have a lot of doubleheaders coming up this summer. A lot of doubleheaders to make up for weather issues, to make up for a week late start to the season because of the lockout.
Yeah. And with all the weather delays and everything, MLB has said teams can carry 14 pitchers through May 29th.
I was just going to say, when did that come out? Because supposedly it was supposed to be May the 1st. The 1st of May was when they were supposed to drop the rosters down. We talked about that last week. And that was going to cause problems for a lot of teams because that was going to cause them to drop at least one pitcher, one position player, or one bat. So they extended it for a month.
Yep.
Oh, they bail everybody out. Let's just award stupidity. Okay, we'll give you another month with an extra pitcher because we know how hard this is, and you can't let your starter go more than 60 pitches or 4 innings. God damn, I hate this.
Every 5 days. And
this is not the game that I grew up with. It's just not.
No. You've got the double headers, deal with it. Call somebody up and ship them back down.
How much you want to bet they extend this through the whole season? How much you want to bet?
It wouldn't surprise me. Let's change the rules.
Jesus.
That's the abysmal Rob Manfred for you.
Yep. Speaking of abysmal and how Rob Manfred runs Major League Baseball and discipline and the double standard, I think it's a double standard when it comes to perception and the PR viewpoint of cheating. We've been hearing for weeks and weeks and weeks about this letter, this secret letter about the Yankees and how they had been caught cheating, and they finally, quote unquote, unsealed it like it was a Watergate document.
Yeah,
and it comes out.
The Yankees tried to have it. Courts rule that it would be sealed and couldn't be made public, and
yeah. It comes out now. They got $100,000 fine. Everybody's like, no big deal, no big deal. Here's the question. I know maybe the Astros pushed it a little bit farther with technology, but the Astros are still getting vilified to this day for what they did.
Right.
The Yankees just get a little tiny slap on the wrist, and the evil empire gets away scot-free again. Because Major League Baseball and ESPN and the TV contracts, we can't penalize the Yankees. God forbid. The gemstone of Major League Baseball.
The Yankees should get hammered because they did it over 2 seasons. Players watching the monitors to look at pitch sequences. Their pitching coach, Larry Rothschild, calling the replay room to get information on pitch identification. This is just as egregious as anything that the Astros did.
Jeez, you hear the media out of New York, though, they act like, oh, this is no big deal. Why is everybody, we should just ignore this and move on. Yet they are still bitching and pissing and moaning to this day about how, you heard it from Brian Cashman, the GM of the Yankees, how he still thinks the Yankees got cheated out of a World Series shot because of the Astros. I don't understand why we let certain teams slide and other ones become pariahs. It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
Another reason to hate the Yankees.
Damn Skippy.
And New York in general.
On top of the fact that, as we alluded to earlier, their fans are turning into barbarians. Throwing water bottles, throwing debris at Cleveland Guardians players. If I called them the Indians earlier, I apologize. I guess maybe not really. It's like the fact that I still call the Chargers the San Diego Chargers. But yeah, the Guardians players seem to bring trouble upon them between Tim Anderson flipping off their fans and now this with the Yankees fans pelting them with rocks and debris. Not really rocks, but it just sounds cool and kind of melodramatic. But a lot of people now sounding the alarm. We're getting closer to having another Malice at the Palace with these fans.
The fans are so damn out of control everywhere. It's pathetic. Nobody takes personal responsibility anymore.
Well, and here's another thing. Everybody's blaming the fact that stadiums will not cut off alcohol sales because these people are dumb enough. Sorry, fans. We go to games, we go to concerts. We're not dumb enough to spend $18 for a 16-ounce Coors Light. But you guys are just loading up on them through these entire 9-inning snooze fests.
They cut off at the 7th inning.
They can still have. They can still grab a couple at the 7th and nurse them through the 9th and into extra innings.
Yep. It's frustrating.
You're never going to get the end of alcohol sales. They're not going to move it up to the 6th or the 5th inning because then you're cutting into their revenue, and then they're going to bitch and piss and moan and complain.
I can't get a beer. You don't have to have it.
I don't understand. You're paying in some big cities $30, $40 for parking just to get in to the game on top of the ticket price. And then are you taking out a loan to pay for this? It's ridiculous. And some of these
people go to multiple games a week. I'm like, come on.
And it's like we talk about on the Weekend Edition all the time. All the concerts we go see. People loading up on these $12, $13, $15 beers, and then they're puking 3 songs into the headliner. They don't remember the next morning, most likely, what happened. What aren't these moments that you're supposed to remember and enjoy, not turn into a possible arrest for throwing items for verbal assault? I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it.
Other tension.
Absolutely crazy.
Other tension-filled moments today, as a matter of fact. Speaking of the other New York team, the Mets. The Mets are getting sick and freaking tired despite of the fact that they are the best team in baseball. Their guys are getting hit left and right, including Pete Alonso.
I can relate to that.
Pete Alonso's gotten hit in the head twice in the first 3 weeks of the season. And they got fed up with it today, and they went after the Cardinals. Nolan Arenado, who could be the MVP of the National League, got tossed because the Mets decided to retaliate after weeks of this. And they threw up and in. Of course, they sent out a young pitcher and told him, here's your job. You want to earn your place in the locker room, throw up and in on their best hitter. And sure enough, he did.
Go high and tight.
Yep. So then bench is cleared. Arenado gets tossed. Now, I'm hearing you can throw in on this. I would love to hear your opinion. We heard about it at the end of last year because of the last second panic move on the commissioner's part. Again, Rob Manfred, what do you expect? with the spider tack, and we're going to inspect everybody, and Max Scherzer's dropping his pants. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of guys, including the Mets pitcher Chris Bassett, who came out and said, it's ridiculous. There's no consistency. The balls from inning to inning
Oh
are
yeah,
changing.
yeah. The baseballs, they used to have a high quality control on the baseballs. And probably because of the pandemic and supply chain bullshit, they're just taking whatever balls they can get a hold of now, and they can't be as picky. And now, the seams are not consistent. The feel, they can't have that consistency. I can see that, but come on, you're professional pitchers. You need to learn how to adapt.
Agreed.
But I feel the Mets' pain. Jose Abreu got hit so many damn times last year. He got hit in the head a couple of times. One was super scary, where he missed had to go out for being concussed. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous what some teams are allowed to get away with against others.
Yep. Now, I heard, and I didn't verify this, my bad, but I'm pretty sure, didn't Major League Baseball a few years back purchase, was it Rawlings? Didn't they actually buy the company that manufactures the balls?
I don't recall that story.
We'll have to do some deep digging on that, kids. We'll get the
Yes.
the interns here at Sports Frenzy, get them to do some journalistic muckraking and get that
Research.
taken care of.
Yeah.
No, but I heard that.
Speaking of muckraking, do we get to drag Angel Hernandez through the mud yet again?
I give Kyle Schwarber all the credit in the world, even though he blew up. That is the perfect tirade to me. If you haven't seen it a couple nights ago, kids, the Phillies game, Angel Hernandez was abysmal. His strike zone was all over the place. And again, we talked about this. We have an argument going on with some of our friends who live near me. They want people like Angel Hernandez to continue on as an umpire because that's the human element. It's bullshit. He called the final out for Schwarber late in the game. The ball was 3 inches, 4 inches off the plate. He calls a strike. And Schwarber just rips into him for about 10 seconds, doesn't get close, doesn't get in his face, but is basically telling him, both teams, you are calling the balls up here, down here, out of the strike zone. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, there was no consistency for either team. He was bad even for him, and he's always horrible. And this is probably one of his worst games ever. And that's saying something. This guy is the worst ump in Major League Baseball. How he's still there is a mystery to me.
And I think I heard late last night that 670, the score out of Chicago, was supposed to have Joe West on today at some point in their daily roster. And the guy said it's going to be hard for whoever's interviewing him to not just come right out first question and say, Joe, why did you suck so much when you were an umpire?
And why is Angel Hernandez still around?
Yeah. Couple kudos. We got to move on after this couple minutes with basketball. But a couple records to discuss in baseball. Now, one happened about a week and a half ago, and I did not mention it last week, but you and I discussed it. This young kid for the Cincinnati Reds is Hunter Green. Man, he has got some smoke. Sets a record back on the 16th of April against the Dodgers. Not just a crappy team like, well, the Reds, who he pitches for, but 39 pitches in triple digits versus the Dodgers back on April the 16th, which is an MLB record. Now, granted, officially they haven't been keeping track of pitch speeds like this for very long. It's only been about 14 years. But still,
Yeah.
this kid hopefully can keep his arm away from whatever Jacob deGrom has been suffering through.
Yeah, just don't overthrow it. Ugh, but still, that's impressive as hell.
And of course, your divisional nemesis for the White Sox, we have to give kudos to Miguel Cabrera of the Detroit Tigers, the 7th player with 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. Of course, he got his 3,000th hit this past week. So congrats to Miggy.
Yep. Congrats to him. God, he has been such a phenomenal player for so long. It's been hard watching him these last couple seasons because he is so dinged up and hobbled. He can barely move. And you can tell it's starting to affect his swing, too.
And we've talked about this with pitching. I think it's going to happen with hitting, too. When are we going to get another guy with 3,000 hits? I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon. I really don't.
No, you don't have guys out there every day anymore. You have to have a day or two off a week. I'm like, come on. This is insane.
All right, moving on to the NBA here for just a couple minutes. The big topic I want to get to is not the playoffs, believe it or not. The playoffs, let's just say, thank God the basketball gods this year have shined a light on us. We got the Lakers, didn't even make the playoffs, and now the Nets have been swept out by the superior Boston Celtics. The Celtics look great, by the way. Great. I could see the Celtics getting to the finals. That's how good they look. And you know what? They did it the right way. They didn't sign a bunch of mercenaries. All those major players outside of maybe Al Horford are guys that they drafted and brought up through the Celtics organization.
Yep, that's nice to see finally something like that happening.
I'm telling you, as we get further on into the playoffs, you and I have talked about, we're going to talk more and more about basketball when the games start to really matter. I want to come back to this because I did some research, and I'm telling you, for the most part, you have got to draft the stars that play on your team that lead you to a title. The mercenary route doesn't work nearly as much as these players and these GMs think it does.
No, it backfires more often than not. And as we're discussing it, I will give you a score update. Here we go with a minute and a half left in the second quarter. Milwaukee is trouncing the Bulls 55-38.
Yeah, the Bulls have got issues. Zach LaVine's out. Yeah.
Caruso's out.
Yeah.
Injuries have killed them. The hot start they got off to.
Yep. And you're going to wonder about Billy Donovan's future as a head coach with the Bulls. And that leads me into our final topic. We got a minute and 20 to go. Jay Wright shockingly retires as the head coach of Villanova, but he is leaving the door open to come into the NBA. Do you want that headache if you're him?
Oh, heck no. Why would you want to deal with all those egos?
Because, again, it's even harder in the NBA than it is in the NFL to go from college to the pros successfully. We just talked about Billy Donovan. He's struggling on his second. He went from Oklahoma City, now with the Bulls. He does pretty well to a point, but then can't get him any further. I don't know if Jay Wright wants his headache.
This was going to be a year too soon for the Bulls anyway. So they kind of overachieved early on, and they were looking good, but then injuries started to take their toll. So they were peaking about a year before everybody really expected them to.
Yeah, I think Billy's got 1 year left. The Heat also advanced, so we've got the Nets and the Heat into the next round. We have got to move on to the next segment. So Dave and I will be right back with NASCAR, kids. Stay tuned. Feeling mildly fatigued? Need a day off even if you just took one a few days ago? Make $30 million a year but just don't want to work for it? You need to join the NBA Load Management Club right now. When they're not napping or texting, guest lecturers Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving will describe foolproof ways to earn tens of thousands of dollars by not doing anything. Sports Frenzy 2.0, available on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, is currently negotiating with LeBron James to bring his popular How to Make the Hall of Fame Without Really Trying webinar live and in person to the Load Management Club. Thanks again to Sports Frenzy 2.0 and all you apathetic fans out there for making us a success.
Welcome back to segment 2 of Sports Frenzy 2.0. Here as we tape on April 27th, 2022. This will hit on the 28th, as usual on a Thursday. I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
And NASCAR, the Dega debacle on the last lap. Congratulations to Ross Chastain. Gets a chance to smash another watermelon in victory lane.
Yeah, I would be curious to know if anybody really thought that, 10 races in, we're going on to the 11th race here coming up with Dover, would have picked Ross Chastain to have 2 wins already.
I know, and that's really a brand new team.
Yeah, especially considering
they bought all the equipment, but it's impressive.
Yeah, considering the big names that are struggling mightily or have not at least gotten wins yet. The young guns finally, as we talk about every year, maybe finally making their statement this year.
Yep, making the case that they belong in the upper echelon of racing here.
Yep.
So,
Christopher Bell, of course, had the pole for Talladega. But yeah, overall, I know you didn't get to watch much of the race, but it wasn't, Talladega, Daytona, the super speedways are a mixed bag. To me, they're not a true test of racing. It's like driving past a car wreck. What do you do? How do you react? Do you want to turn and look at the car wreck, or are you focused on what you're doing in getting through and getting to your final destination? And Talladega and Daytona are kind of like, can you balance the two out? Can you try to admire the boring racing, everybody getting in a line for 50, 60, 70 straight laps before they do the all-out frenzied stages finishes or the overall race finishes, where there's going to be carnage. So
yeah,
this one didn't even have a lot of carnage. There were a couple minor accidents compared to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this mess at the end, this little tiny wreck that took out a few contenders at the end that Ross Chastain snuck through, has now caused an ancillary problem, though, that popped up this morning for NASCAR.
Denny Hamlin has to undergo sensitivity training. It has to begin before this upcoming race at Dover. Why, you ask? For a simple little Family Guy meme that he put out on Twitter about Asian drivers. Because it was Larson, who Asian descent, who made the questionable move that set off that final melee heading through the tri-oval. Trying to be funny, you can't do that, and he gets taken to task for it.
Now, there are so many topics of discussion here. that we need to bring up. Now, number one, the Family Guy clip that he somehow found or somebody sent to him had technically already been banned. They were not airing it in Family Guy episodes anymore because it had already been deemed offensive.
Yeah.
And that's saying something with Seth MacFarlane involved. But they had
if
already
something
said
from the Family Guy got banned, then there's a serious issue because they get away with so much as it is.
Right. So Denny somehow gets this sent to him. Somebody finds it, sends it to him. Again, for the 7 billionth time since we've started this podcast, social media is the bane of all human existence. Why did he send that out? Why did he feel like he had to retweet that? Did he know what he was doing? Did he really understand the connection between the Asian driver joke and Kyle Larson's heredity? Did he realize the irony of the fact of what Kyle Larson went through just 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Did NASCAR understand? Do they give a pass to Denny Hamlin, whereas Kyle Larson lost an entire year? Now, it worked out for him, but
Right.
And finally, and then I'm going to let you go. How about the fact that Bubba Wallace is the driver on Denny Hamlin's team that he owns, who has already had to deal with what he claims are issues? I'm still skeptical about the whole news thing. But the fact that Denny Hamlin brings in an African-American driver in a prominent role and then turns around a year later and does something like this to show no sensitivity towards, any kind of a racial or ethnic, compromise or trying to be PC, let's say.
Yeah. God. I'm just over everything. And he should know better. I mean, that was a dumb move on his part, or whoever was running his account at that point, because we don't even know for sure that it was him. It very well could have been one of his minions that posted it, and now he's paying the price.
Yeah, I find this thing so funny. And this kind of reminds me of what we were talking about in segment 1 with the Yankees and how the Yankees get away with cheating, try to suppress a letter from the commissioner that basically points out every fact and observation they had of the Yankees cheating, and everybody goes, oh, well, no big deal. It's just the Yankees. Now it seems like Kyle Larson got vilified for using a word he shouldn't have used, lost a year out of his career. A year out of his career. Now, Denny Hamlin turns around and pulls this on technically Kyle Larson, and he only has to do the sensitivity training part. He's an owner and a driver for 2 different teams.
I think NASCAR learned their lesson for the overreaction of banning Larson for a year. They recognized that went way too damn far because they took a lot of crap for it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm just trying to point out the hypocrisy. I'm not taking sides because you and I know this is an explicit podcast. We say things. We've talked about the fact that we say things that are controversial. We're not apologizing. We have called out athletes. We have said nasty things about athletes, and I'm not apologizing. You're not apologizing because we know it's the truth. Now, people screw up. People make mistakes. There needs to be a level of forgiveness. So I agree completely 100% with you. This has got to be them looking back and saying, we really screwed Kyle Larson a lot, overreacted because of the political climate. We
Yep.
can't do that again.
Yeah, it's like the NCAA is no longer giving the death penalty to a football program like they did with SMU back in the day.
Right. Right. Unfortunately, again, this is a symptom of the world we live in where everybody overreacts and then they realize they
Yep.
did, and somebody, some team, some driver, some personality, they have to suffer. They pay the consequences, and then the next time around, everybody goes, "Oh, okay, we went too far that time with you. So sorry, but now this time for
Yep.
this guy or this team,
Going to reap the benefits."
yeah." See, that's just wrong. It's just wrong.
And people have got to be able. You're going to have gut visceral reactions. But for the love of all that's holy, when it comes to social media, stop it.
Yeah,
Stop.
one of the few stereotypes. You want to talk about a stereotype in this video, which is, getting Denny Hamlin in trouble about Asian drivers. You want to talk about a stereotype that for the last decade has been true to form is the troll in mommy's basement who's got no worries about anybody coming after him or her as they take a break from playing video games to call out and rip upon every single person in the world who does something that mildly offends them with nobody there to criticize them in return.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. We've said how much we hate these trolls time and time again. And they are the biggest problem with social media. But then again, people need to take 5 minutes, 10, 15, whatever to calm down and not post an immediate response.
Again, something we've always agreed upon, always said on this show. You got that 5-minute rule. If you still feel passionately about it, if you've thought about it, you've weighed the pros and cons, you've come up with all the options, and you still are mad, you're still pissed off, then go ahead and do it. You're still going to have to suffer the consequences, but at least you have thought about it and said, I am that upset about this that I will go ahead and go forth into that cesspool of social media and put my opinion out there.
At least you should be able to, that gives you the time to re-edit yourself eloquently.
Absolutely.
And do so in more of a professional manner.
Right. Absolutely. I completely agree. You're not just dropping F-bombs and racial slurs and nasty stuff that you're going to regret later. Very good point.
Yeah. Now, there is a time for dropping F-bombs, as we will attest to.
Oh, hell yeah. Fuck that. Yeah. All right. Race 11 of the NASCAR season coming up here May the 1st, 2022. The Duramax Dryden 400 from Dover. The schedule settles down here for a little bit. The next 3 or 4 races are more quote-unquote normal tracks before we start to get into
the monster.
Yep. Before we get into more road courses, get some off weeks coming up in the summer. So, for Dover, I am in charge because, of course, we're doing this over Zoom. So, Dave doesn't know the picks like he would normally. So, I get to tell all the picks except for his. I do not get to see them. First and foremost, I should mention, we have to do it every week. God bless those platforms that carry us. Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, and Stitcher! All right. Bill and I are of like mind here. We're going to burn the big one. We talked about it last week. 420 I was going to say. I was going to say, yeah. We were smoking doobies last week, but we've still got to burn a big one this week because this is the one driver that causes a lot of stress for me is because as great as he is, the former champion, the current champion, the reigning champion, so many tracks he's so good at. You could pick him almost every week. Dover seems to be that track, along with maybe Michigan, that he dominates at. So Bill and I are going to go ahead, smoke him because we got him. Kyle Larson for Dover.
There you go.
Now,
good pick. I almost went there.
Now I know who you've got. I will just let you tell everybody what you've got. Just to let you know, though, Doug is in agreement with you.
Alrighty then. So the governor and I are both going with Alex Bowman.
Who would have been my second choice? That's a great pick. Really, any of the Chevys, the Hendrick Chevys, have to be the picks.
Week in, week out.
Yeah, and 6 of the 8 panelists this week, and believe it or not, all 8 picks are in. So a rarity, but a awesome rarity. 6 of the 8 panelists have picked Hendrick Chevys to win at Dover. So we've got 4 of them right now. Kevin Bill with Larson, Dave and Doug with Bowman. Sam, the elder statesman, goes with William Byron. And Aaron, the Big Easy, goes with Chase Elliott. So there you go.
All righty then.
That leaves 2 drivers or 2 picks left. 1 driver between Mrs. C and the Juggler, Jen and Nick. They're hanging on to that happy train. I keep hoping that he'll somehow show me a little bit more. I know he's doing okay, but Jen and Nick are going with Kevin Harvick.
Historically runs well here, but last year and coming into this year, they have been struggling. So I'm surprised nobody took Truex Jr. for this one, because it's another decent track for him. But again, the Toyotas are not running that strong.
I think that's the thing. I think everybody's starting to look at the results finally after 10 races. And outside of Denny Hamlin.
Toyota win. Hamlin backed into it on fuel. And Kyle Busch got his win because of a wreck in front of him.
Right.
At Bristol on the dirt.
Yep, absolutely.
So they weren't really in contention.
Completely
they just
agree.
happened to have played the circumstances.
I guess it should be noted as an update on our Frenzy Cup competition, because we do, as we kind of like to remind you kids out there in podcast land every month or so, that we have our 5 competitions that we have during the year, which leads up to the Penta Frenzy, crowning the ultimate sports god / genius. We are in
or whoever got lucky on their picks.
We've got the Frenzy Cup going on right now, our version of what we do for NASCAR. So right now, things are getting a little bit better, but it was a rough start for most of our 8 contestants. So I think 4 right now of the 8 are qualified to make the playoffs.
I'm hoping to climb into it by the end of the season.
Well, that's why I was kind of pointing out the next 3 or 4 races should settle things down a little bit. We go Dover, Darlington, Kansas City, Charlotte, and then the wild card unknown, first time ever, Worldwide Technology Raceway will be a crapshoot.
Big time.
All right, bud. We talked about this. We didn't know whether we should do a draft preview, a big blowout NFL draft preview. Of course, tomorrow night, we're getting together, as we always do, you and I and the elder statesmen, the 3 senior members of the Sports Frenzy panel, to indulge in watching the first round of the draft. We're not going to indulge in anything else. No.
No.
I think we might have some finger sandwiches and some ginger ale, and it'll be all good. But this is just not an exciting draft as it sets up right now. A lot of defensive guys, a lot of offensive linemen, maybe some wide receivers, but it's not quarterback heavy in terms of top prospects there. And nobody's touching running backs in the first round anymore.
Running backs are like being pushed way, 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 way down the line.
Right. So there are going to be some guys who are drafted tomorrow night in the first round who are going to be around for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, probably 1 or 2 Hall of Famers. But in the end, we're really not up on them. We're not really privy to know a lot about them outside of the people who are in their fan base, like, Hutchinson from Michigan, Thibodeau from Oregon. I didn't watch any Oregon games this year. Did you?
No.
Barely, maybe a game or two with Michigan. So I really don't know a lot about these guys, to be perfectly honest. It just seems like if you don't overreach and don't screw the pooch, if you're the Jaguars, if you're the Lions, the Jets have 2 picks in the top 10. The Giants have 2 picks in the top 10. The Texans. As long as you just take maybe the best available.
The best available player that you need.
Right.
This is a year to fill needs, not trying to take best talent. Fill your needs.
Now, for a team like the Texans, I tell you, they got a lot of needs. A lot of needs.
They do.
Of course, it'll be interesting to see. The Bears, of course, for you and I, aren't a factor again in the first round. Gee, how many times have we said that over the last decade? But it'll be fun to see with the second pick what the elder statesman's reaction is to what the Lions do.
Yeah. See, and this is a year there's nobody really there that anybody's going to want to trade up for. A lot of teams may want to try and trade down. So if you trade down, what do you have to give up?
Well, I think some of these teams, like the Jets, like the Giants, they are so far away from being contenders. I'm sorry, but they are. That taking one of those first-round picks, first top 10 picks, one of those 2 top 10 picks, and trading back and getting maybe a number 1 next year, keep rolling it back. This is what the Bears don't understand. This is what our GMs never understand. Roll it back. Roll it back.
Let's see. Well, we don't know for this year because we don't have a first rounder. We have to wait till the second.
Right, but I'm just talking teams in general. If you aren't sold on the talent pool, if you don't, why are you so scared? The Giants have been notorious for doing this over the last 5 or 6 years under David Gettleman, where they drafted Saquon Barkley up at the top. And that he was the one, I'm telling you, he is the one pick that convinced everybody else in the league, no more.
Don't take a running back.
Him and Ezekiel Elliott is the other one. Him and Zeke. Those were the 2 highest drafted running backs I can remember in the last 7, 8 years. And they have been, now Barkley's been a disaster. Zeke has been just okay. But for where they were drafted.
Well, until he got hurt, and he has not come back from that at all.
But again, for where they were drafted, way, way too much to pay. Too high of a price to pay for a running back where you got a guy who was 80% of what you got with Zeke or Barkley in the 3rd or 4th round. Like the Bears. The Bears have always been smart, God forbid me for saying this, when it comes to drafting running backs. That is the one area they always seem to know what they're doing in. They are patient. They always wait till the 2nd, 3rd round, 4th round, wherever it might be, to get a Matt Forte, to get a David Montgomery, even to get a Tariq Cohen, who was good for a couple years before he became a disaster. The Bears just no more tight ends ever. Just stop it.
My God,
stop it.
Please stay away from the damn tight end. Ugh.
Well, I don't know how big of a deal this is, but for the first time ever, this coming Christmas, the good thing is that means no NBA. The NFL, the big dog, finally gets to push the NBA off and say, Christmas is not yours in 2022 because
Hallelujah.
Christmas is on a Sunday. So we are getting, for the first time ever, the NFL will have 3 games on Christmas, 3 primetime games.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Yeah, 3.
To get rid of the NBA on Christmas Day. And you're only going to get that when it falls on a Sunday.
Right. Now, when I say primetime, I mean nationally televised games. Sorry.
Yeah.
Obviously not 3 games in 8 o'clock in that window.
Right.
But I mean 3 nationally televised games, kind of like what we get on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we've talked about the Yankees. The Yankees get away with whatever they want. We've talked about Denny Hamlin. Seems like he gets off light with his socially insensitive infraction. Now, Jerry Jones, the lawsuit has been dropped.
Ugh. How much did he pay to make that one go away?
Of course, there are no numbers being disclosed. All she says she wants now is a DNA test to prove that he is her father. Okay, fine. Why do you drop the lawsuit? Because the lawsuit could have forced him to do that. Now you're just acting like you're going to, please, pretty please, Daddy, will you take the DNA test? What legal recourse, what purpose now does it serve Jerry Jones to do this if there's no lawsuit hanging over his head? Again, the Cowboys skate.
Yep, money talked again. So, although it still doesn't look like things are going to go so well for the Washington football team now that the Virginia Attorney General is going to start looking into them.
But we've been saying this for how many years, where Washington keeps stumbling all over themselves, biting themselves in the ass, and they never get called out for it. They never actually get a penalty. They never actually have the league say, Dan Snyder, sell the team now. We're done with you.
At this point, will they ever? If this last year has been the worst for them, for any organization in the NFL. And if he's still allowed to continue, shame on Roger Goodell. Shame on the rest of the owners.
And there has to be something where there's the cliche is where there's smoke, there's fire. There has to be something with the sexual harassment lawsuits. There has to be something with the withholding revenue from the other teams. People just don't make stuff up, and then it keeps building and building and building. If it was a made-up story, it would have gone away completely, totally, quickly. It would have been refuted.
Yep.
But then it goes to Congress. There's got to be something going on.
And if they're not careful, they could lose their antitrust designation.
Can I just tell you how much I love Tom Brady to close out this segment?
Restructuring again.
Yeah, and I know there's a limit to how far out with baseball. They'll let, they still got Bobby Bonilla Day. There is a limit to how long you can stretch out a contract in the NFL. But Tom Brady, again, as he did with New England, now he does it with Tampa Bay, restructures $9 million in cap space. So we're just going to sit there and wait until somebody dumps a really good, solid veteran that they can't afford, and we're going to swoop in and take them.
There you go.
In the weak-ass NFC. Because admit it,
Very weak. Very weak
outside
NFC.
of the Rams and the Buccaneers, I'm sorry, I'm not sold on the Packers yet. Now we'll see what they do in the draft, but they have got to get more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, yeah, they'll win the North, but outside of that, I don't think they advance in the playoffs.
No, they're going to wind up winning the North by default because the Bears are going to be abysmal. Detroit can't get out of their own way. And Minnesota doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
Oh, but they have Kirk Cousins.
Again, Minnesota doesn't know what they're doing.
All right, kids. That being said, time to wrap up segment 2. Stay tuned for segment 3. A lot of miscellaneous topics to bring up. And then Dave and I play dumb ass or not. You love it. You know you love it. Stay tuned. Segment 3 coming right up.
Greetings, sports fans. Listen to the screaming geniuses of Sports Frenzy 2.0 every Thursday as they bring you the thrill of victory and the agony of stupidity on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. And check out the Facebook page, Sports Frenzy 2.0.
Hey, everybody, time to wrap things up here on Sports Frenzy 2.0, taping here on April the 27th, 2022. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height. Sorry, technical delay.
Yep, we're zooming it this week, kids, so you gotta deal with what we've got to deal with here. Lots of little miscellaneous tidbits to discuss here for the first half of this final segment, and then moments of silence and dumbass or not. Big news this week on the NCAA front. Nobody's favorite president, Mark Emmert, is stepping down. He has overseen a incompetent, stupid, inept regime. We got to put up with him for possibly one more year. He came out and said he will step down. He will be done no later than June the 30th of 2023.
It's about damn time. I guess you could say as much as we rip on Manfred, I think Emmert might have been even more abysmal.
Well, Emmert's got more to deal with because he's got more schools to deal with, more sports to deal with. But the thing is, he's got to focus on the big ones, basketball and football. And he just did an abysmal job. And now you wonder, we talked about Jay Wright in the first segment as he leaves Villanova. You wonder if these coaches aren't getting burned out with this transfer protocol, the portal, the window that they've set up now, where these kids now went from having no power in terms of where they could go, where they could play, and now it's gone to they've got too much.
Yeah. They did not find a good balance.
Nope. So a lot of people are saying good riddance to Mark Emmert. Here locally, Notre Dame, for what it's worth, gold beat blue at the spring game.
Does it really matter?
Well, what matters is I saw that a major recruiting website says Notre Dame is right now currently the number 1 recruiting class of the year.
Really coming up for the next?
Yeah, so Marcus Freeman's doing an unbelievable job recruiting, it looks like.
Well, there you go.
Now the question is, can he coach?
That we'll find out. Didn't look so good in the bowl game. Kind of got away from... They almost played not to lose instead of trying to play to win. They did not look like the same team in the bowl game that they did through the regular season.
That being said, he got thrown into the fire because Brian Kelly jumped ship, decided to adopt the Cajun accent and go to LSU. So now, with a complete and total off season, a complete recruiting cycle, now maybe he's calmed down, he's learned some things. I think this year will be a better gauge of how good of a head coach he is.
Yeah. We will see how it plays out.
Dave, who is the prettiest
Yes.
woman in sports? Who do I love? Who do I love?
Would that be the NFL Network game day and starter who's moving to Amazon?
My gorgeous Kay Adams.
Yes.
Yes, the second Mrs. Crane, who doesn't know she's the second Mrs. Crane yet. Yes, Kay Adams is leaving the NFL Network. Looks like she's heading to Amazon. I still can't believe Amazon, for all the money they're investing in the NFL right now for one Thursday night telecast. I thought for sure they were going to get the Sunday ticket with all these guys they were bringing in, all this talent. I mean, now they're bringing in Kay Adams. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That was probably the original plan until Apple swooped in with ridiculous, stupid money.
Yeah, but Amazon has got ridiculous, stupid money, and they've already got a foothold. This kind of worries me. It makes me wonder: is Roger Goodell turning into who we've been talking about pretty much this entire episode? Is he turning into Rob Manfred, where he is just going to grab the money, the easy money, where he can, when he can, without looking at? We talked about Apple botching the first MLB broadcast they had. Now, what are they going to do with the Sunday ticket?
Now, do they have anybody that's going to legitimately be able to call it?
Right. Now, luckily for them, the Sunday ticket does involve, for the most part, bringing in the broadcast from other cities, but
still.
Now, what happens with the red zone? I have never heard that. Does the red zone stay with affiliated with the NFL Network, or does that go to Apple TV Plus? That will be the key.
Have not.
All I know is I have Amazon Prime, so I get me some Kay Adams on Thursday. Yeah. I will be recording every Thursday night game to watch my lovely Kay Adams. We're going to take a quick break, kids. We'll be right back. We'll give you a bonus segment, segment 4. Hang on. Coming right back.
This is Coach K, and after my retirement from college basketball, I plan to become an analyst on Sports Frenzy 2.0 with the Maestro and the Conquistador every Thursday on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, and Castbox. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Frenzy 2.0, episode 17 of 2022. Taping here on April the 27th. This will hit tomorrow morning, April the 28th. Of course, the 28th is draft day. We're having technical issues, as you could tell. Kind of got cut off in my rant about how much I love Kay Adams. Dave is temporarily incommunicado, hoping to reestablish a connection with him here in the next few minutes. But until that happens, got some miscellaneous sports topics to discuss solo with you. Boxing. Why would anybody mess with Mike Tyson, even as he's gotten on in years? He's still kind of trying to fight exhibition matches. This past week, Mike Tyson beat up an unruly plane passenger, drunk off his ass by all accounts, throwing water bottles at Mike Tyson. Who does that? The man got a face tattoo. I am not fucking with a guy who got a face tattoo. Especially when he's pretty much the baddest man on the planet. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. It looks like all parties are just going to let it fade off into the sunset, which is the right thing to do. But again, I don't understand why anyone would mess with Iron Mike. Now, the current Lord God King of the boxing squared circle, Tyson Fury, retained his heavyweight titles. Record of 32-0-1, 23 knockouts. Looks like he might be done, though. Might be retiring, supposedly, possibly, maybe returning to the WWE. It's an interesting comparison to make. Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury, not just because of the names, but the glory days of boxing, the pay-per-views where people actually cared and would actually willingly shell out money. I know people pay to see Tyson Fury, to watch UFC, but it's just not the same as it was back when it was Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, George Foreman. Those guys would fight twice a year in some configuration. Those were fights worth watching because it felt like they mattered. It doesn't feel as great as Tyson Fury might be. With that record, we've got to say he's great. But nobody cares about boxing anymore because corruption, because the belts are fractured, all the different factions. It's like comparing, again, I know wrestling's fake, but it's like comparing WWE versus AEW versus Ring of Honor. Who's the better champion? You just get tired. Oh, we're going to unify these belts, or we're going to do this. Unless you have one true champion like real sports. And I know boxing is a real sport, but that's the conundrum. That's the problem. It is the one real sport that acts like it's a fake sport, like professional wrestling. NFL, one true champion. Baseball, one true champion. Basketball, one true champion. Moving to tennis. Looks like Wimbledon is playing double standards. Wimbledon is going to say, unlike the Australian Open earlier this year, Novak Djokovic is okay to play without being vaccinated, but they have jumped into the political fray and have banned all players from Russia and Belarus because of the war currently going on in Ukraine. Now, you might immediately say, what's the problem with that? Maestro, why do you have a problem with that? Because let me point out somebody. Jay Hart writes for Yahoo Sports, wrote an unbelievable piece this past week about this. And he explained the term virtue signaling to me in a way that nobody has been able to before. Wimbledon is basically saying we want to look good to the most people we can, so we are going to do the wrong thing by banning the players, the individual players who might or might not believe in or side with Vladimir Putin just because of where they come from. As Jay Hart said, this is virtue signaling at its worst. Look how awesome I am. Look how great I am. I just dropped $5 in the Salvation Army bucket. Aren't I awesome? Let me go post it on Facebook to show everybody how fantastic and generous I am. They don't do it out of the goodness of their hearts. They do it because they want other people to see, hey, wow, cool, you're a nice person. It's disgusting. And it's the problem we have in this culture right now. It's why we have cancel culture, is people aren't allowed to voice their opinions without fear of repercussion, without fear of jackasses pulling this, as Jay Hart said, virtue signaling. If I'm in the minority on any issue, if I want to get into an argument, get into a debate to try to prove my point, but I'm in the minority, I am going to get beaten down on social media. And I'm taking an individual stance here versus a larger scale stance here to try to prove the point. It doesn't matter if my points are valid. If I'm in the minority, I am going to get crushed just for the fact that I'm in the minority. And in a way, that's what we're talking about with this virtue signaling with Wimbledon. These players from Russia and Belarus didn't do anything wrong. They were just born or are citizens of the wrong place. And you can have this argument, you can have this debate morning, noon, and night about it. A lot of people will say that's a justification for open borders. That's why we should let everybody and anybody in on the southern border in America, is because it's not their fault where they were born. To me, it's a different argument altogether. Tennis players aren't an economic burden on London or the All England Club. They're not expecting special privileges or special treatment. They just want to play in an athletic event that normally they would be welcomed into with open arms. Think about it, kids. Now, of course, Phil Mickelson got in trouble about a month ago for talking about his relationship with this upstart Saudi Arabian golf league. Bowed out of the Masters, had to give things time to die down, the PR mess that he created. But now Phil acting like he wants to come back and play in the next three majors of 2022. But he also wants to play in the Saudi Arabian League. He has already asked for a release in order to play in the London tournament that's connected to the Saudi League. Be interesting to see where this goes. Be interesting to see what reception Phil Mickelson gets when he shows up in his first major American tournament. I don't think the crowds will hold it against him. I think this is, again, like we just talked about with tennis, virtue signaling. Phil Mickelson said some stupid things. But were they so bad, so egregiously awful that he shouldn't be forgiven and forgiven quickly? I don't think so. I think it's ridiculous to hold this against him. I just have a feeling that the crowds at the PGA Championship and the US Open, if he does end up playing there, will be quick to cheer him and forgive him, just like they do Tiger Woods. Just like they do Tiger Woods. And if they don't, they're hypocrites. Because what Tiger Woods has done in his past, to me, is far, far more egregious than anything Phil Mickelson has done or said. I talked about Kay Adams. How about we talk about another gorgeous, gorgeous woman connected to sports, Paulina Gretzky, of course, the daughter of the great one, Wayne Gretzky. Sticking with golf, of course, she married Dustin Johnson, one of the greatest golfers in the world currently. Lucky man, Dustin. Lucky, lucky man. And then finally, we're going to wrap up here before we reconnect with the Conquistador and do moments of silence and dumbasses. It's our Week 2 USFL update. Unfortunately, not great news for the USFL. 58% viewership drop from Week 1 to Week 2. I can't say that's shocking. I can't say it's surprising. The play, I have watched some of the games. I would say I've probably watched over the first 2 weeks 25% of the on-field play. It's not terrible. The quarterback play really does leave a lot to be desired. I've heard other people say that. I think that's the big thing. It's not really dynamic. There's still a lot of inept football being played. And again, this is what we've always gotten, it seems like, year in, year out, decade after decade, when these spring leagues try to jump in and make a name for themselves. The football has got to be better, and it's got to be better right off the bat. And then this whole thing where they play all the games in Birmingham just, again, makes no sense to me whatsoever. How are you expecting fans in New Orleans, especially fans in Michigan, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, Philly, to get engaged with these teams when they never get to see them live? And they're watching these games on TV to empty stadiums because, and I'm not holding that against Birmingham. Why would the Birmingham people want to see anything other than the Birmingham Stallions, especially after the first week? Now, the home viewing audience, like I said, 58% drop off, that's concerning. But the Birmingham Stallions and the New Orleans Breakers are 2-0. The two best teams right now through 2 weeks in the USFL. Michigan Panthers, Pittsburgh Maulers are at the bottom 0-2. I just want to make one last note on this before I wrap this up and get back with Dave. I tried for years and years, because he seems like such a great guy. He seems like such a nice, personable guy, cares about his players, cares about the sport. But man, Jeff Fisher, he's not a good coach. Jeff Fisher is not a good coach. Years and years of mediocrity with the Houston Oilers, the Titans, Now the Panthers, his team in the USFL, 0-2. Not looking that good. I will say the Maulers, from what I've seen, look worse. Man, Jeff Fisher just is not a good football coach. I'm sorry. Not when it comes to comparing him with all these other guys. All right, that's it. Gonna hook back up here with Dave for the final segment here on this fractured Sports Frenzy 2.0. Check out the weekend edition where we will be together. Things will be a lot smoother. Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, and Stitcher. Hang on for the last segment, kids. We will be right back. Are you having trouble falling asleep behind the wheel of your expensive SUV? Are you finding difficulty in avoiding golf clubs thrown at you by your angry wife as you pull out of the driveway? Sign up today for the Tiger Woods Driving School, sponsored by Sports Frenzy 2.0. We'll show you how to text ladies of the night while still driving effectively in the wee hours of the morning. We'll also teach you how to ditch a suspicious backpack when you end up driving into a ditch. Check out Sports Frenzy 2.0 on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, for updates on our latest classes, including how to curse and swear in front of uptight golf fans and their children and still be adored by millions. The Tiger Woods Driving School. It's great. Hey, everybody. Sorry about the technical glitches tonight. It is all about Zoom. It's all about the internet. We're trying to piece this together for you. The night before the draft, April the 27th, 2022, we have got our moments of silence. Dave will give you those two. He will give you a couple dumbasses, special ones for him, and then we will play a quick round, 5 dumbasses or not.
All right, moments of silence. Legendary Raiders quarterback Howard Cosell called him the Mad Bomber. Darryl LaMonica has passed. And then Stanley Cup winner 5 times with the Montreal Canadiens, legendary Guy Lafleur. Our thoughts and prayers go out to their family and friends. Now, moving on to our dumbasses. I got to start with Bears wide receiver Brian Pringle, who was arrested and charged with reckless driving, doing donuts on a suspended license with his son in the car. Absolutely unforgivable there. Then I got to go with ARCA driver. Oh, what was his name? Daniel Dye, the 18-year-old at a school dance, trying to jokingly dance and grind his way in another male student's face. The guy didn't take kindly to it, shoved him away. Dye responded by punching him in the groin, resulting in a ruptured testicle.
Ow!
So he was arrested with aggravated assault.
Ow!
You screw up your life, kid, for something stupid.
Lord help us all. Nobody wants a ruptured testicle.
No.
All right, we got to wrap things up, kids. But we do have time to play a quick 5-round edition of Red Foreman's Dumbass or Not. Of course, I love to give Dave my dumbasses of the week and let him decide, since he is so smart, so worldly, so cultured, whether or not I am overreaching in my evaluation of calling these people dumbasses. First off, Spike Lee. This should be pretty easy because normally we just say dumbass right off the bat. But here's something that pisses me off and should piss off every true blue diehard fan of any team. Dave with the White Sox and the Blackhawks, me with the Cubs. Spike Lee is known for rooting for who?
Of course, the New York Knicks.
Legendary feuds with Reggie Miller.
Yep.
He showed up in Brooklyn Nets gear to root them on here as they failed miserably in these last couple games. I can't that would be, I know how you are, and I know in your heart you were being nice to me when the Cubs won 2016, when they won the World Series, but you are not in any way, shape, or form ever going to root for the Cubs.
No.
That's how I look at this. How do you do this? How do you turn from one New York team to another when you have pledged allegiance your entire life? This is what LeBron James does. This is what Eddie Vedder does. These celebrities are such assholes when they do this. Sorry, dumbass. Yep.
That's a dumbass move right there.
All right, second. You'll probably need some visual aids. You're going to have to take my word for it. Oklahoma unveiled a Baker Mayfield statue at their spring game recently. You kids are going to have to go online and look at this because social media rained down on this and said, hey, it's kind of cool how you unveiled a statue of the Terminator from the second movie, Robert Patrick. And if you look online at the pictures of this statue they unveiled at the University of Oklahoma, it looks like a dead ringer of Robert Patrick from T2.
Oh, that's a dumbass move by Oklahoma, but also, more importantly, on the damn sculptor for screwing that up so badly.
Didn't somebody check it ahead of time? You know?
Oh, my God.
All right, going to hockey. You know about this. Now, I know you don't like the Red Wings. Okay, I'm taking that into consideration. But 51 years as the Red Wings Zamboni driver, Al Sabatka, was fired. And he has filed a discrimination suit. He didn't think anybody was in the building. He has a medical condition, so he peed into a outgoing drain because he couldn't make it to a bathroom, and he has a prostate issue. Somebody ratted him out, and after 51 years, he was fired.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Come on.
So you're siding with Al?
I'm siding with Al. Come on.
Again, in this day and age, we've got to show a little bit more sanity for some of this type of stuff. I'm with Al, too. The Red Wings, whoever runs the Red Wings or the arena, dumbasses. I don't know if you saw this video, Dave. Now, this is like JUCO college. Baseball. He's seated. He knows what's coming. Weatherford. Pitcher Owen Woodward has been booted off the team because he tackled. I'm talking tackled.
This was classic Dick Butkus hammering an opposing quarterback type tackle.
As the guy rounded third base, he just launched off the mound and planted the guy. Now I
know the hitter was talking trash the entire way around and said something, but you have got to maintain your composure.
Agreed. So, no dumbass?
Oh, he's a dumbass for tackling him.
Okay.
You have to be able to maintain your composure.
Finally, the Nationals tried to do something right in this season that's already starting out with utter misery for them as they played the Arizona Diamondbacks in Washington, Military Appreciation Day. Problem is, they wanted to have some guys parachute down into the stadium before the game. They didn't get clearance from anybody in Washington.
No.
So they had to evacuate the Capitol, the U.S. Capitol last week, because of a strange plane flying in restricted airspace that dropped a parachute team into the stadium for the Arizona-Washington game.
The person in public relations who set that whole thing up needs to be fired for being a dumbass. You cannot pull something like that. Unacceptable. That's even worse than the Baker Mayfield statue.
All right, so I did pretty good this week. I nailed most of the dumbasses, so I'm feeling good. So until we record the weekend edition tomorrow, I'm the maestro, Kevin Crane.
I'm the conquistador, Dave Height. We'll talk to you next time.
Take care, kids. Bye-bye.